it can, it can be a relationship that you solve. And it just comes down to the knowledge and the awareness of what social media is really doing to you. Because when you look at someone's aesthetically pleasing Instagram and they've got a whole team behind them, you're obviously going to feel like your content's not as good. You're going to feel like that. But instead of, and I think this is how you can use imposter syndrome to your advantage, is instead of seeing that as that means I'm not good enough, it's saying, oh, there's something to aspire to, something that's aspirational for me. Or on a really fundamental level, typically when we are the most upset by something someone else is doing, it's because we want that thing, right? So maybe you get consistently upset that someone...
Welcome to the Wealth and Wellness All Women Rock podcast, hosted by me, Tamara, the CEO and founder of All Women Rock Global. Join me on this journey as we explore topics, conversations, and interviews related to wealth and wellness. Let's get started. Hey girl, hey. Welcome back for another episode of the Wealth and Wellness podcast by All Women Rock. On today, it will not just be my voice that you hear. I did an awesome interview with the beautiful Rebecca Nesbitt, and this interview was so amazing. We talked about so many things from imposter syndrome. We have so much in common. She will also be speaking at the summit, but here's a little bit about her. Our guest today is a life coach and a business coach second. What makes her relevant to our conversation today? She'll be delivering a workshop at the All Women Rock Summit on a topic close to her heart, and I'm sure yours as well. Creating consistent sales. Who doesn't want that in their business? From 5-figure debt to 5-figure months. Introducing Rebecca Nesbitt. Let's take a listen, ladies. Hey girl, hey. Thank you so much for joining us on the Wealth and Wellness podcast by All Women Rock. On today, we are joined with the beautiful and talented Rebecca Nesbitt. She is a life and business coach and the founder of Soul Happy Success. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh my goodness, it's such an honor and a gift. I'm super excited to be here.
We're super excited to have you. As you guys know, she will also be speaking at the All Women Rock Summit. But on today, we get to learn a little bit more about her and what she does with her business. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Soul Happy Success? I love that name, by the way.
Thank you. I think that, it came about because I really need to streamline this into a story, but the bare bones of the story is I feel like success isn't just financial success, accolades, achievements. Success is really determined by how in alignment are you with your soul and what you're here to do, and how happy are you? Those are the things that truly make up a life. You can see the most financial poverty in the world, but they can be the happiest people. And why do you think that is possible? Like, how is that possible? And it's because success is not always in correlation. However, equally, it totally can be. So I'm a massive pioneer for the success too. But yeah, that's how it really came about, because I think that, success doesn't exist without alignment and happiness in the journey. And then those successes are so cumulative and it just keeps growing and building. And I feel like that's the idea that I want to bring into my business, is that it grows and it builds alongside people, so that I'm not just, the business coach that's saying, here's how you make 5 figures. I'm also the business coach that's saying, here's how you make 5 figures, but also let's just check in. How's your health? Like, let's just check in. How are your relationships? How is it going? So I feel like whenever I talk about my business, I always say I'm a life coach first and a business coach second. I truly believe that, there are no business problems. There are only personal ones. And I think that the name of my business is really reflective of that too.
I love that. You're so right when you mention about how your health, and that was part of the reason why I kind of named the podcast Wealth and Wellness, because a lot of times people think that when you're wealthy, you should be. I've had this conversation with so many people, especially my father. He's very old school and doesn't quite understand when people are not happy, when they're financially stable. And it's just like those two they don't have to coexist. And a lot of times as women, we don't understand that we can't pour from an empty cup. We're trying to do this, we're trying to do that. So I created the Wealth and Wellness podcast so people can see that there are different forms of creating wealth in your life. It doesn't have to be a 9-to-5, a 401k, a coach, whatever it might be, what makes you happy. And wellness doesn't have to be the same. Going to church, praying, whatever it is that makes you feel whole, makes you feel happy, makes you want to get up every day, then you do that. So you're so right about that. And I love how you say, I'm a life coach first and a business coach second. I love it. Do you have go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love how in alignment we are. We're very in sync.
Yes, yeah. We are. Yes, I mentioned earlier before we got started, I was like, we have to meet one day in person, whether it's in Nashville, here, Texas, or whatever. But we are. Right. With you knowing that all those things have to be aligned. And some people, for me, I have to start my day with a morning routine. My daughters know if my door's closed, do not interrupt me. I am praying, I am journaling, I'm reading some inspiration, I'm watching a sermon, whatever it may be. But I have to get myself grounded for the day. Would you say you have a morning routine?
I love this question because I used to be the pioneer woman of, the 5 a.m. and the morning routine. And as of late, I would say probably in the last year, I've come to decide I am just not that person. And it's not because we don't get up early in our house. My husband actually wakes up at 4 a.m. So we're a 4 a.m. household now. The joys of being married. It genuinely is, he's such a gift. Like I thought I was cool and then I met him, Mm-hmm. But we have very early mornings. But more recently, I tend to take, unless there's something that, pops up that I really have to do before 11 a.m. in the day, I tend to use before 11 a.m. in the day is what is it that I need and what moves the needle. Mm-hmm. And then everything that is, that kind of firefighting, responding to messages, all those kinds of things in business, I'll do them after 11 a.m. And I found that that's the morning routine that works for me, is that my morning routine is not structured. It's that it actually has maximum fluidity. Because TMI, I hope we're all here for this, but I am a woman, as I believe many of the people listening will be. And I really like to work with my cyclic health. So today I had a lot of energy, but I know next week I'm not going to have that energy. So I want to really move the needle in the mornings right now, which means I actually want to do less of the self-care. Not because I don't need it or want to do it or think it's important or think I should be consistent, but it's actually because I would much rather use the energy when I have it. And then when I don't have it, then I can take my foot off the gas and I can take care of myself.
Yeah.
So my morning routine is very different every day, but that's personally how I like it. And I designed my life that way. However, if I talk about myself, a year ago, I would have said, I wake up at 5 a.m., I meditate, I move my body, I journal occasionally. I was never good at it. I do journal religiously in the morning now. But I would always have said, these are the things that I do. This is what everyone should do. This is what everyone at the top is saying you should do. I just have a little bit of a different opinion on mornings, but I do like to take that pre 11 a.m. And, when you wake up at 4 a.m., that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
To be moving the needle and be thinking about, what's the next move instead of just constantly kind of firefighting is what I call it,
Yeah. I love that. 4 a.m. That's a little early for me, but I was having this conversation with a friend recently and I was telling her my morning routine has always been the same, and life hit me real hard last year, and I went through something that I've never experienced before, and the things that I was currently doing to help myself get through it that I've always done, praying and reading the Bible, it was just like none of this is working at the moment. And then I had to be okay with myself to change my morning routine. Like, this is not working for me. And so sometimes now I don't have a specific time that I have to get up. Of course, I take my daughters to school, but I don't have like, okay, get up at 5:00, do this, do that. I can't operate like that, but I do like to take a few moments for myself in the morning, prayer, or maybe reading or something like that. But I had to change my strategy up based on what I was currently going through. And so now I have time in the evening because I was like, what is it that I can do that will make me feel just a little bit better from what I'm experiencing? And I found out working out and reading was one of them. So in the evening, my phone goes on do not disturb, because I noticed I would feel more irritable. I'll feel more sad. And as someone that has struggled with anxiety and depression, I knew I had to find me something to help myself mentally. And so reading was one of those. So my morning routine consists of a night routine too. So in the evening, I'm shutting down from 9 to 10, where I just read, because this gives me peace right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, people hear 4 a.m. and they go, oh no. But I mean, staying up till 10 o'clock at night, I'm like, you stay up till 10 o'clock at night? We're in bed for 8:30. I'm asleep for 8:31 because I am just a ninja sleeper. But and that's, I think, you made such a great point when you were saying, we get to stages where we think, gosh, this isn't working for me anymore. And and something that works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for another. Because if I was to say, you should run your day like me, like shoot all over you, then you'd be like, I have babies to take to school. Like, what do you think I'm going to do? Like, I'm just going to take them to school at 11:01. Like, that's not going to happen. So you do have to be really mindful of like, what's your situation and how does it best work for you? And, if I was to give, I think we all have kind of fundamentals. If I was to have fundamentals that typically get done in a morning routine, it would be, there's always some journaling. I'm like very conscious that like one, page, I don't freehand, if I was freehand, it'd be 2 pages, but because it's on a screen, I feel like 1 page is enough. So I will always journal out my thoughts for a page. And, that can take up to 30 minutes, 45 sometimes. I like very small writing. So, that can take some time. And then there's always some form of movement, whether it's like the shortest walk you've ever seen in your life. It can be a little bit of dancing. I don't do my actual full workouts in the morning because those things take 2 hours and it's very dramatic. So they get done at like 4 p.m. So just a little bit of movement, not something that's too much. And I'll always listen to something motivational in the morning, always, like rain or shine, no matter what mood, no matter if I literally want to throw my phone across the room because I'm like, today I just don't want the motivation. I will still do it. So, there are pillars. But yeah, I hope that this conversation has allowed some other people to think, hey, maybe my morning routine doesn't have to be so prescriptive. And maybe I could try something different if something's not working, instead of, not the greatest term, but flogging a dead horse,
Yeah, that was a struggle for me, because I grew up in the South, and what they say is like the Bible Belt or whatever. And I grew up, reading the Bible and going to church, and I'm like, this is not working. So I'm like, I got to get back into therapy, and I got to find something here that I can do, because if your thoughts will take you down a rabbit hole if you allow them. Yeah. One thing that I when I started with entrepreneurship, some know, for me, it wasn't the goal for me. My parents wanted me to go to school, get my college degree, get my master's degree. I did all of that, but it didn't give me what was promised, the American dream. I had a bunch of student loan debt. And during the time when I'm just like, this isn't working. And my mom she started real estate, and she would always come back with these entrepreneur books. And so that's kind of where the entrepreneur lightning bug took off for me. It's just like, I don't have to do the 9 to 5. I don't have to do this. How can I get into entrepreneurship? So that's kind of where the light took off for me. Where did that come from for you?
This is so interesting because I think that I started in coaching as a careers advisor. That was my role as a careers coach to start with for 9 years. And I did that fully employed. So I wasn't self-employed. I was fully employed by a government organization back in the UK. And these are the things I would help people with. And it was so interesting because what I started to see around me, and this is zero disrespect to anyone that's in that role that may listen to this, I love y'all. I actually really did love my job. And I think that's something that, you know, as entrepreneurs, we don't talk about. Like, you can love your job and you can still leave it. You can think that you worked with great people and you can still leave. But what I saw was everyone around me was giving all of this careers advice. And then you'd see them in the tea room and they hated their job or they weren't happy with what they were doing, or they wanted significant change and thought that things should be a certain way, but no one was standing up to change it. And I think that that's where the journey really started for me. Was I started to realize, if I am going to give advice, especially to, you know, at the time, so I'd worked with adult clients for the majority of the beginning of my time in that role. And then I started to work with young people in school. So you're talking high schoolers. And I was like, if I am going to tell this person in front of me that they should follow their dreams, and, you know, if they want to go to college, go to college. If they don't get a job, look at this apprenticeship. Have you considered what this would look like as your own business? How would you get those skills? If I was going to sit there and tell people this is how you should do it, then I really have to do it for myself. And that's the biggest pillar. And bless my clients will 100% be behind this. You know, they'll say the same, is that we just value honesty above everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that belief came from. And that's also where the spark of entrepreneurship came from, because I had been working in the online space. I was introduced to online through social selling and network marketing. So if you're thinking, you know, your Arbonne, your Avon, your Mary Kay kind of thing, I met my friend Rachel. She's still a huge part of my journey, my life. She's such a great human. And she said that there was this other way, and I had been doing that. And then I had this real light bulb moment when I remember being in school and talking to this kid and saying, you know, this is how you do it. We have to think about what you're interested in. And all of the lights were going off in my brain, thinking, this kid should be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of entrepreneurship training through being a part of network marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the moment where it really clicked for me. And I thought, I can do this. You know, I just have to start going after what I'm interested in. And then the pandemic hit, and, you know, everything changed from there. And I was so when you're speaking about, you know, going back to therapy and dealing with anxiety and depression, like, girl, I just want to like hug you and be like, are we the same person? Because I was really struggling with those things along the way. And in the pandemic had hit. I went into a life coaching program, and it changed my life. My friend Lani changed my life. I had a lot of friends that changed my life over the time. And I went into her next program. And then the pandemic was chilling out and everyone was going back to work, and I had relocated and I didn't want to go back to my job. So I just said, I'm not going to go back. And fortunately enough for me, Lani at the time, she was looking for another coach. So I had decided to leave my job, and I was like, universe will catch me. I'd had some coaching clients, they'd paid, they were up for renewal. And as I left my job, you know, 3 days later, she said, do you want to jump on a call? And I was like, calls with her at the time were the holy grail. So I was like, yes. We jumped on this call, and she was like, I'm looking for another coach. Would you be interested? So I did that for a year. And then I really went out on my own, and have been for the last, 14 months. And I feel like my business is a child. Like, it's 14 months. It's not a year and a bit, and that's what led me to where I am. So very, whistle stop tour. But I think that, those moments, if you listen to them, are cumulative over time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the real pull for me was when I was teaching someone to do something that I myself wasn't fully committed to. And I thought, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. That's not who I am. I can't be dishonest to this, young, impressionable person in front of me that is just looking for answers. And then I really started to see people around me that were giving all this advice and they weren't able to take it. And I thought, that won't be me. That won't be me in 20 years' time. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So that was it for me.
That's amazing that's how your journey formed. I noticed that you put that you're helping women with imposter syndrome. Did any of that come up for you during this time?
Do you know what's so interesting is like, yes and no, because yes, it came up because I don't have a life coaching certification, but I do have, a master's degree. So, or master's level degree. So it was actually a postgraduate diploma in careers guidance and development, which was essentially the coaching approach. I actually have a master's level coaching approach training also. So I've done all that, but I haven't done your very notable life coaching qualifications. All of that has been self-taught, self-learned. Now, the principles are the same because I learned counseling and coaching. However, it was different. So there was definitely this, what do I call myself as a coach? Because I don't have a certification that says life coach. I don't have a certification that says business coach. But then my experience and what I would always teach when I was doing careers is your experience speaks for you more than your qualifications, because that is the time that we've stepped into in the labor market. So this is coming from, this is old career speak, but the labor market are not looking for you to have the qualification. That's why you're coming out of college and not getting jobs. It's because they're looking for experience. They're looking for your extracurriculars. They're looking for all the other things that you do, as opposed to just going to college and getting the degree. And that was something that I really had to learn for myself again after preaching it, for 5 to 9 years. And yeah, that was something that I really did have to deal with. And it's something that I see cropping up. I mean, searches of imposter syndrome have gone up 900% in the last year.
Wow.
This is something that we're really dealing with now. And I know that it is the mental game, but it's also, there's a little bit of strategy that people are missing too. So that's what I'm giving to people. That's what I'm bringing to people in my masterclass. That's what I'm bringing to people I'm about to do a challenge that will be on my Facebook page. It's going to be 21 days. It costs nothing. Come along, get value. And it is coaching you through, like, this is how you do the business side. This is how you start to overcome imposter syndrome. And it'll be a life's work. Because I think that, we see people with streams of certifications, but that doesn't mean that they know what they're doing.
That is true. I had to learn that during my entrepreneur journey too. And so like life and experiences as being an entrepreneur are my qualifications. Yeah. Because some people will have all of these things behind their name and they haven't really gone through or experienced certain hurdles, certain struggles, or had to overcome anything as an entrepreneur. So for some people, it's just like, I can't, if you've never been where I currently am, I can't relate. So you can have all the degrees behind your name. And if you've never been where I've been or have no experience, it's just, doesn't always work. Do you think social media plays a huge part into women or just people in general having imposter syndrome?
I think it plays a massive part. I think that we sit on our phones and we scroll, and all we're doing is we're judging other people or we're comparing ourselves. And in that comparison lies our imposter syndrome. I can't coach because she's doing it and she's doing it really well. Oh, look, she got another client. I didn't get a client this week. That means that I'm not good at what I do. Oh, she got another qualification. Oh, she's been in another event. Like, I think that, that really does play into imposter syndrome. And I think that social media has a lot to answer for, bless it. But it also can be the greatest tool as an entrepreneur, which is why it's almost like this abusive relationship that we have with our phones, like, I need to go back to you, but I kind of don't want to. But it can be a relationship that you solve. And it just comes down to the knowledge and the awareness of what social media is really doing to you. Because when you look at someone's aesthetically pleasing Instagram and they've got a whole team behind them, you're obviously going to feel like your content's not as good. You're going to feel like that. But instead of, and I think this is how you can use imposter syndrome to your advantage, is instead of seeing that as that means I'm not good enough, it's saying, oh, there's something to aspire to, something that's aspirational for me. Or on a really fundamental level, typically when we are the most upset by something someone else is doing, it's because we want that thing, right? So maybe you get consistently upset that someone is getting clients. Well, it's because you want clients. That makes sense, right? But maybe it's that someone's speaking on a stage and you've never said you want to speak on a stage, but you really do, because whenever someone else is doing it, you have this feeling that comes up in you that you then say, oh no, but I have imposter syndrome, I could never do that. And you talk yourself down. And if we get into the inner talk, that's a whole new world, right? But you'll talk yourself down. But what if you just let you dream? And what if instead you thought, wow, like with something I do when I'm looking at people that are maybe speaking in front of crowds, it's something I'm interested in doing, so I'll use it as an example, is I think, wow, they're doing it. What would it look like for them? Because they'd be looking out at the stage. Because quite often we're looking at the person saying, oh, that's so aspirational, putting them on a pedestal. What if we thought, what does it look like when I'm actually speaking on the stage? What does it look like when I'm actually doing the workout where I'm like achieving the pull-up? What does that look like? And then you'll find out if you really want to do it or not. That's true. That's a really good indicator. So if we actually start to flip the lens of social media, can be really helpful. But I do think that social media plays a huge role in imposter syndrome, and it's because it's a place where we go to judge and compare. So if you're looking for a coach, you're going to judge that one's qualifications against the other one's qualifications potentially. And it happens a lot, especially in the world of academia. It happens a lot. I had an opportunity to work alongside an 8-figure entrepreneur, and the only reason she wanted to work with me, because she only works with 8-figure entrepreneurs, is because she said, you're an academic. So I actually do have the qualifications academically to coach. Even though, my own imposter syndrome got in the way and said, but it wasn't the right one, right? Where we've dumped that belief. But she was like, the only reason she wanted to work with me is because I was an academic who could sell things and who could speak about things in a certain way that academics don't do, because they're reliant on their qualification. So there are so many facets to how imposter syndrome can just beat us all up. But social media, 100%, I think you got it on the nose with that one. Social media is a massive contributor.
Yeah. I like to say you're looking at people. Sometimes one thing that you're looking at is highlight reels. You're looking at the best part of their day. And another thing is with women, especially entrepreneurship, you're looking at their now, and you don't know what they had to overcome or what they had to do to get there. And you're comparing it to your now. You don't know how many years of training, how many hurdles, how many bankrupts or overdrafts or not having any money, any followers. You're not looking at any of that. Yeah. And we have to take that into consideration when we're looking at other people that we aspire to be or we want to be in business, entrepreneurship, motherhood, whatever it may be. Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
You answered my next question, because you did kind of give us a strategy on how, if we're kind of struggling with the imposter syndrome. And I think you can let me know your thoughts on this. I think women personally struggle with this more than men. Would you say you agree on that? They
struggle with imposter syndrome more? I want to say yes, because more women talk about it.
Okay.
And the question is, how many men are experiencing it and not talking about it? Because we've got to take that as a fundamental. But, if I take just myself and my husband, I hope he doesn't listen to this. No, I'm kidding. If you do, hey boo. But, the difference between us, it's so interesting, is that I will try things and I will fail and I will get back up and I'll be like, oh God, I really messed that up. I failed. I sucked at that. And I will really beat myself up and I'll be like, gosh, maybe I didn't do it because I don't have enough followers. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's because I don't have the qualification. I'll seek reasons why I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve. Whereas, my husband looks at everything as if he's just going to kill it. Like he's going to be really great. He's super confident. He knows he'll figure it out, and he knows he'll just keep going until he figures it out. And I think that as women, what we're potentially better at, and not in a good way when it comes to imposter syndrome, is we're better at letting it keep us down.
You're right.
But then you've also got to think, are we talking men and women, or are we talking societal pressures? because everyone has different societal pressures. Everyone came from a different family. We really have to look at it as an individual, I would say. But overall, do I think that it affects more women? In my opinion, yes, because more of us talk about it.
That's true. You're right about that. I like how you explain that. I know you mentioned that you're going to have a upcoming challenge. I'll list those links in the show notes as well. But you offer private coaching, master classes, and networking events. Can you explain a little bit more about that to us?
Absolutely. So what's going on right now? Let me just give you a real broad brush overview. Is I am doing a 21-day challenge on my Facebook page. That's just for everyone. It is called Pondering to Profit. So it's like, if you want to be a coach and you're not really sure about it and you're not really sure how the money works and you've got questions, it's 21 of the most common questions I get asked in all of my market research, which is all self-done. So I'm going to answer all those questions. I do have a masterclass coming up that will be at the end of June. So the links are not available for that yet, but they will be available on my Facebook page. And I also am running a group program, which is going to be specific to overcoming imposter syndrome, because I think that we have to look at multiple aspects to find the coach within ourselves. And we have to remember those moments that we both spoke about, when you said your mom would come home with the entrepreneur books, and I said with the child sitting in front of me and giving the advice, we all have to have those moments, and we have to have someone guide us through that, because we don't necessarily think like that all the time. That comes with deep reflection and being an entrepreneur for a period of time. So I'm going to really fast track that. So if you think if you want a coach, you can. It's my motto, because there are no formal qualifications. It's the interesting thing. If we speak about qualifications, there's no formal qualifications for coaching. Anyone can call himself a coach. I went to university for 2 years, as I said, and it was just to be called a careers coach in my job, but I could have left my job and called myself a career coach that day, and no one can say any different.
Yeah.
So it's really to breathe that belief from someone that's been there. So like you're saying, you want them to have been there, that can lead you through it. So the group program is coming in June. I do offer private coaching. That's absolutely always going to be something I do. I think that there's so much juice in one-to-one coaching. It is a gift. So I do offer one-to-one coaching, and feel free, anyone that's interested, to reach out to me. And typically that starts on a 3-month contract. So we like to be weekly, we like to be hardcore, and we also like to have a lot of fun along the way. So it is for anyone who wants to laugh in their coaching calls so much they're going to pee their pants, but also really wants to see those results, and not just the results that we were talking about earlier, the accolades and the achievements and the finances. We're looking at all of those things, yes, but the main things that I coach people in still remain to this day. How do we increase your levels of happiness? How do we increase your alignment with yourself? What do we have to overcome in those areas? Because then business becomes really easy. Because that's literally I always just think business is just numbers at the end of the day. Not that people are numbers, that's not accurate, but it is a system of numbers when it comes to the business game. So if you can do basic maths, you're good, right? It's very simple, but the things that we'll work on are more about, what do you do when you're stuck in comparison and you're scrolling your phone and you just can't get out of it, and you've worked yourself up into a tizzy, and that inner voice, who is that inner voice? We'll start to ask questions about who is that, because that's not you. Typically your second reaction is you, your first reaction is usually a parent. But we'll start to really explore and get underneath those things. So yeah, that is what I'm doing all at the moment. And for any entrepreneurs, just before we clue out that part, I do offer a CEO Crowd networking event that is the second Sunday of every month. And we have about 20 women that come together, and we promote our services, our offers, we seek support. And it's a live situation where everyone's live on Zoom, everyone gets a chance to talk, you get a chance to promote your services and really get that help that you need, because there's just not enough. We were talking about it before we started recording, there's not enough of that where people just come together in goodness and spirit to help one another out. And whether, women are getting great relationships from it, there's accountability partners being born, every time. And people are getting clients, they're getting beta clients, they're getting their market research answered. And especially if you're at the beginning, that's so invaluable. So absolutely, like, please share that link, because they're filling up really fast. June is already full. July is already, halfway there. So they don't come around often. And they just seem to be, those spaces are just flying. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're wanting to get some support and your offer out there, that's the place for you.
Okay. Is there a cost for the networking event or? Okay.
No, the networking is completely free. And I think that's part of the gift of it. That's part of the gift, is that this is another gift that we have as women. We can come together and not in that comparison. And this is, a big part of what I'm trying to get away from, for my clients, for myself, is that when we're on social media and we're comparing and we're judging other people, how do we get away from that? And the way that we get away from that is by having actual genuine relationships with other people. And when you know someone's story behind the post, you care an awful lot more. That's not going to just be a like. That's going to be a like, a comment, a direct message, all of the things, because you're just like, what you're saying is so on. Like, yeah, I get it. Like, I love what you're doing. Like, this is epic. That's where you get those real friendships. And I think that if we form those friendships and we find the right people, then we can go so much further, so much faster. And it also is like a giant, I won't cuss, but it's a giant FU, to how society thinks that we should constantly be in competition. And that's something that we're shown through absolutely social media. We're also shown through, the movies that we watch. And I just want to be a little part of what breaks that down. So that's why there's no cost associated with the CEO Crowd networking events. And there never will be.
Yes, I have an upcoming episode where I talk about that. I have a podcast segment where it's like meeting in the ladies' room, where we just kind of talk about certain things that we don't talk about. And I kind of discuss how that's all you see on TV. And people always ask me, do I watch Housewives? I do not watch Housewives. I don't like to see women fight with one another. That's just me. It's just a personal thing. If you enjoy it, you love it. I have friends that absolutely love it, that are so far from the ladies that they see on TV. But just for me, what I need, I can't watch stuff like that. I want us to be seen in a more positive light. And I know I can't save everyone, but if I can just take one and show her, hey, as I always say, my goal is to link up with women next to me, keep my hand back for those behind me, and keep my hand forward for those that are ahead of me. And if I can, continue to think that way and spread love and positivity and help other women and entrepreneurs that way, then I'm good.
Yeah. I'm 100% with you. I don't watch Housewives either.
Yeah. So those links will be listed in the show notes as well. Out of those things that we've mentioned, the private coaching, the masterclass, networking events, what would you say would be like one of your absolute favorites?
I will always be the biggest fan of one-to-one coaching, because it's been the biggest shifts in my life, but it also has been, it was the 9 years of before I did any of this. It's what I'm trained to a very high level in, what I enjoy. And the thing is that I just don't think there's anything better in this world than when you're having a conversation one-to-one with someone, which AI cannot replace. When you're having a conversation one-to-one with someone, even like this, where it may be not a one-to-one coaching call, but when you can see, a light go on for someone else, because we'll both take things from this call today. And I find the same in my one-to-one coaching calls. It's always a two-way street. I always learn something from the person in front of me, something I can do better, maybe something a little bit more about myself, something a little bit more about them, so I can support them in a better way. So I think that, one-to-one coaching is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Yeah. And it's one of the pillars of what I do. And it's something that I will always do. My husband and I will dream about, when the business is so big and there's the group coaching and there's the memberships and there's all the things. And, he says like, well, you still have one-to-one clients. And I was like, this is a no-brainer. I will be maxed out of one-to-one clients because there are people that have worked with me I've been in business for over a year that have worked with me that long. And I'm very fortunate. I have incredible clients. I can't be grateful enough for them. And, they've all worked with me for over a year.
Yeah.
And they will continue to work with me because, one, my renewal rate is very high, but two is that we're in this journey together and they're consistently getting results, consistently growing. And I think that's just the most magical thing. It's one of the greatest gifts that you can give to someone, is to support them to change their perspective. And I do think that, there's a place for group. I think that group is wonderful because you can come together and you can have that community, but also it's just so special to have someone that's in front of you that, remembers your kids' names and remembers your birthday.
Yeah.
And knows why you don't want to try something because it's very reflective of something that happened in your childhood that hurt you. Someone that doesn't need to be told those things, that actually has just worked with you for such a time that they get it. And they know when to push and they know when to back off. They know what your capabilities are and what you're ready for. And they also believe in the highest version of you. Because I always say to my clients, if you had half the belief that I had in you, you'd have done all the things that you've said that are on your vision board. You'd have done them yesterday. And I think there's so much power in having, because I think that's something that we don't have, and probably why one-to-one is so deeply seated for me, is that not everyone has that person in their corner that believes in them, that knows they can do it. Because, a lot of my life, I was not gifted that person,
Yeah.
I was told I couldn't do things, or I should watch how I say that, or watch what I do, or I should stay in that 9 to 5 because it's safe. And I didn't have someone to be, my partner in it. And before I was married, I didn't have that person I do now. My husband is completely wonderful, as I have said 3 times. But I have that person now. But before I had that person, it was my coaches, and it still is my coaches. My husband plays his role, but we're also at different stages of entrepreneurship. So I do need that person to be that guiding light to support me. And I think that it's one of the biggest gifts that you can give yourself, but that I can give to the world. So if I could say anything, it would be one-to-one will revolutionize and change your life. But if you also equally don't have the capacity to do that, maybe you don't have the financial capabilities, or maybe there is something else standing in your way, or you're a bit nervous to be, your full self with someone, try their other stuff.
Yeah.
I would say that with anyone, like not even just for me, try the other stuff, like go to the summit, like go to the All Women Rock Summit, because you'll find people there that you actually want to open up to. You want to tell your story, and you want to get their opinion, and you want to get their support. Like you'll find people and try their free stuff, try their paid stuff, and see if they're the right person for you. Like I date my coaches like you wouldn't believe before I invest in them.
That's true. That's true. I love that. I do that too. It's just like building that trust factor before you, decide. And everyone doesn't work for everyone. So would you say that, would you say like your clients are more vulnerable in one-to-one versus group? Or does it, sometimes we can get in a group and someone will mention something like, that's me, I can relate to that. Or do you feel like they can open up to you more being in a one-to-one setting?
That's a really interesting question. I think it depends on the woman. There's part of that. It depends on the woman, if they're comfortable to open up in a room of women. And then you're right, one person goes and everyone else goes. And I work really hard when I do have a coaching cohort, and we actually just on Sunday, we did a session that was deeply emotional. It was, what were you told growing up that you believed in your whole life, and you're ready to not believe in it? And it was really emotional. I even said before we started, and I think maybe this is the key, is before we started, I said, if you don't feel comfortable, don't share. It's okay. And give people that safe space. But typically in a one-to-one setting, there's more social pressure. So to really look at it from more of a logical perspective, there's more social pressure if you're in one-to-one with someone to be vulnerable. But I do believe that something that Brene Brown says is, if we are looking to be vulnerable with someone, we want them to be vulnerable first. So you have to also have a coach that's willing to say, oh, I tried that and it failed. I did that and it sucked. I had this experience and it was so hard. And someone that's willing to be honest with you, because what I find and what I think is different, and I had a client, one of the reasons why my whole new way of doing things in every framework has come from, I had a client and we were working together, and she's a certified, holistic health coach, spiritual coach. She's got all the certifications. And she says, but you know what you did? I've never experienced that before. In the last 12 weeks, she'd left a long-term relationship that was hard for her, and she'd been in multiple coaching programs and knew that this was a problem. And this was the first time that she'd made a decision to leave the situation. And she was like, I don't know what you did or how you did it. And I was just like, I was just honest. And now I understand when I've gone back and studied myself. It's one of the best studies you can do. And I understand how I do things now so that I can pass it on. But I think that in one-to-one is where you get the opportunity to do that. But I'm equally as vulnerable with my group coaching clients because I'm just equally as vulnerable across the board. Whether that woman wants to share in a group or a one-to-one is different. The levels at which we'll go to are different, because as well in a group, it's not just you. If you're one-to-one, it's you for an hour.
Right.
If you're a group, it's, all of you for an hour. So you don't want to take up the time. So you can't get as deep into what's going on.
Yeah.
So based on a few factors like social pressure and timing, I would probably say people have the opportunity to be more vulnerable in one-to-one. But I'm very fortunate that my women, when they're in a group, are equally as vulnerable, just in a little bit of a different way because it's a different environment.
Yeah, you're right. One of my last questions that I want to ask you, that I ask all of my guests on here, what does wellness mean to you?
Oh, do you know this? I love that you've asked me this right now at this part of this phase of my life, because lately I have been saying this quote a lot, and I don't know if you've heard of it. Like, let me know if you have. But I heard someone say, and I don't know whose quote it is, so I'm really sorry, people, please Google. But it was, when we replace I with we, even illness becomes wellness.
I love that.
Isn't that good? Oh, it's like goosebumps all over your body. Good. And something that for me lately has taken on wellness for me is my connection to other people. So I think I've been working on the concept of overall wellness for a really long time, being mentally well, being physically well, spiritually well, financially well. But lately, the terminology I'd give to the wellness that I'm working on maybe would be, how much we can we have? How many people can I bring together, and how much impact can those people then have? Feels very resonant. So right now, wellness is all about we.
I can relate to that on so many levels. Like I've mentioned before, I went through a traumatic time last year in September, October of last year, and I was in a mastermind group. And one thing that I always look forward to was my mastermind. I did not miss it for anything. And I was like, why am I I'm in this place right now where I can't even really focus on my business. Why am I so in tune? I can't wait for my mastermind on Tuesday. And I just kind of found out that was just like, I needed that. I needed that community. I needed to be able to talk to them and just hear their stories of where they were in the entrepreneur journey, what they was working on, what was working, what wasn't. That was my motivation to help me get back out there and just keep trying again. And just being able to talk with them and just having that time with them. It's only like 5 of us in there, but still every Tuesday I was there. I didn't miss it. Everything that I was going through that Tuesday at 10 o'clock. So I love that. I'm gonna have to write that one down.
Yeah, I'll send you a message so you don't forget it. But it's so interesting because it's something that as well that I noticed, because I'm in a lot of different groups and go to lots of group trainings, and I do that for my soul. Like you have your mastermind. I say we have ours because myself and my husband are now part of a new mastermind. But the reason why I go and I show up is because I need that motivation. And when I actually look back, because I have clients and I've, like I said, like I've had for a really long time, and for our group trainings, I just know they're going to show up. And that wasn't the case, you know, when I was with the first company that I was with after I left my job. There was more people, that's for sure, but it was never a guarantee of who would come. Whereas, you know, I've had a small bespoke group of women in my mastermind for over a year now. It would have started, well, maybe it actually started in June. So yeah, nearly a year now. And they've been there every week.
Yeah.
Rain or shine, drama or trauma.
Yeah.
They still show up. There's never I just can't make it tonight. I'm tired. There's never an excuse. There's always I came for a reason. And the reason I came for, I got something that was going to help me. And I think that that's when you know that you're really in alignment. And I know that, you know, you look to God, I look to the universe. If you look to Star Wars, we don't mind, you know. I think that when you show up, you will always find something because you are divinely guided to be there. And I believe those are the spaces we can create for people. And that's why you went to that mastermind, because it was giving you something that you needed. And I feel like, you know, that's where wellness is all encompassing. It's a spiritual calling. It's a physical calling. You're pulled to do it. It's an emotional calling. You know, you're going to feel better. It's a calling across the board. You know, you're going to have community. And that's really, really wonderful.
Yeah. I loved it. I'm going to have to keep that quote. Thank you so much for joining us on today, Rebecca. As I stated, the links will be listed in the show notes. And again, Rebecca will be speaking at our Women in Podcasting Summit that we're having June 22nd through the 24th. So if you have not got your ticket, you can get it now. It's absolutely free. Go to allwomenrocksummit.com to get your free ticket today, and you'll be able to hear her speak. And your topic, I'll let you share it.
Of course. So my topic is going to be creating consistent sales for your business. So it's really talking about a little bit about the numbers, but you know, there's going to be a lot of mindset in there too. And I'm also offering my tracker as a part of the resources that you'll get there, because I think that once you crack this roller coaster of, you know, I don't know if I'm going to make money, you know, it's for anyone that is feeling like they are either financially in a place where they can't run this business, they can't start this business, they don't know what to do to make money. But it's also for, you know, if you want to leave your 9-to-5 and you haven't got there yet, or maybe you've left your 9-to-5 and you don't have any financial security, and you feel a bit like I did at the beginning, which was the roller coaster of entrepreneurship was very resemblant of, you know, my financial journey. And when you're doing big things, I mean, in the first year of my business, I relocated to America. I had to pay immigration. We've done so many trips, I can't even. I'm very fortunate to work from anywhere, but we've done a lot. We got married. So we've done a lot in that year, and you want to have that financial security. And that's what puts a lot of people off. That's what puts a lot of people off entrepreneurship is, but I know if I go to my 9-to-5 that I'll get paid for the hour that I work. And that's not reflective of your business as of yet, because you don't know your numbers. So it really is for anyone that wants to leave their 9-to-5 and just wants that financial security, someone that's left their 9-to-5 and feels like they don't have that and it's keeping them up at night. That's who it's for.
That I have a lot of people within the All Women Rock community that don't even have a podcast that can truly benefit from that I've personally spoke to, that just like, I hate this job. They leave I have about the ladies, I say they live for the weekend, you know, as soon as Monday hit, I can't wait for Friday. Or those that have left and just kind of struggling with being able to create consistent income. So you guys, you'll be in for a special treat. You'll get her resources. You'll be able to hear her speak. allwomenrocksummit.com, and her links will be listed in the show notes. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining us on today.
Thank you so much. It's been such a privilege. I'm very grateful.
If you made it this far in the episode, it shows you are interested and committed. If you want more of Wealth and Wellness, tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. I would love for you to subscribe and share. Your experience on this show means a lot to me. I want to welcome you to click the link in the show notes to leave us a comment or a question. It's speakpipe.com/allwomenrock. The link is listed in the show notes. You never know, you just might be on our next episode. Be sure to follow us on all social media channels at All Women Rock Global. Until next time.